Meet Brian, just got off a matatu after the longest shift of his life. Boss was difficult, traffic was worse. The guy next to him on the mat was on a phone call the entire ride and apparently had a lot to say about his cousin's wedding. And somehow, by the time Brian gets home, he's spent 400 shillings on things he didn't need and can't quite explain. A soda he didn't finish. A snack he wasn't hungry for. Airtime he loaded and immediately used on a call he didn't plan to make. Brian isn't bad with money. Brian is stressed. And stressed brains and money are a genuinely terrible combination. Here's what actually happened inside Brian's head on that matatu ride home. When your body detects stress, a difficult boss, a crowded commute, a long day that just wouldn't end, it releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is useful. It's your body's way of saying something hard is happening. Stay alert. In small doses, it keeps you focused. The problem is that cortisol doesn't just affect your muscles and your heart rate. It directly affects the part of your brain responsible for decision-making. Specifically, it weakens your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that says, wait, do you actually need this? It's the part that looks at a Cash 350 impulse buy and says, that's not in the budget. When cortisol floods your system, that voice gets quieter, and the other part of your brain, the one that just wants relief, comfort, and something that feels good right now, gets louder. So Brian doesn't buy the soda because he's thirsty. Brian buys the soda because his brain is desperately looking for a small win after a day full of losses. The soda costs 80 shillings. It delivers approximately 45 seconds of relief, and it counts as a decision which gives the brain the illusion of control when everything else felt out of control. This is not a willpower problem, this is biology. And here's where it gets worse. Cortisol doesn't just make you spend, it makes you spend and then forget. Because the same prefrontal cortex that would normally remember I bought this and file it appropriately is the one that got suppressed, which is why you open your M-Pesa statement 3 days later and genuinely, sincerely cannot account for 400 shillings. It's not that you weren't paying attention, it's that your brain wasn't filing. Let me put it a different way. Imagine your decision-making brain is a security guard at the door of your wallet. On a calm day, that guard is alert, checking everything, turning away anything that doesn't belong. On a stressful day, that guard is exhausted, distracted, and frankly just waving things through because he doesn't have the energy to argue. Cortisol is what exhausts the guard, and every impulse purchase is just something that slipped past while he was looking the other way. Now, here's the part nobody tells you about stress spending. It actually works. Temporarily. That brief relief you feel when you buy something small after a hard day is real. Your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. The stress eases, just a little, and your brain files that information away. Spending equals relief, which is exactly why the habit is so hard to break. You're not being irrational. You're following a loop your brain built deliberately. The problem is, the loop has a receipt. So what do you actually do about this? First, know your stress triggers before they know your wallet. Most people have predictable stress patterns. Bad days at work, difficult commutes, conflict with someone close. If you know Tuesday evenings are always rough, that's the moment to be most deliberate about what you buy. Not reactive, deliberate. The stress is coming whether you prepare or not. What changes is whether your wallet is ready for it. Second, give your brain a cheaper win. The brain doesn't actually care whether the relief costs 350 shillings or 0 shillings. It just wants the dopamine. A walk, a cold glass of water, a 5-minute phone call with someone who makes you laugh. These aren't motivational poster suggestions. They are literal cortisol reducers that cost nothing and deliver the same neurological relief your brain is chasing at the supermarket. Third, build a 24-hour rule for anything above 500 shillings. Not because you can't afford it, because your stressed brain and your rested brain are genuinely different decision makers. The item will almost certainly still be there tomorrow, and if tomorrow you still want it, then it was probably a real want, not a cortisol want. Here's what I want you to take from this. The next time you open your M-Pesa statement and find a transaction you can't explain, don't immediately blame yourself. Ask what was happening that day. Because most unexplained spending isn't careless, it's a brain doing exactly what biology built it to do. The goal isn't to feel nothing. The goal is to make sure cortisol has fewer opportunities to reach your wallet before your prefrontal cortex catches up. Brian eventually figured this out. He now keeps a water bottle on the matatu. Small thing, costs almost nothing, but it gives his brain just enough of a small win to hold the line until he gets home. The soda still calls to him sometimes, but now he knows who's actually doing the calling. If you watched our last video about why your salary is shrinking, you already know the system is making this harder. Now you know your own brain is too. Next week, we'll talk about what to do when both are working against you at the same time.